Commissioner Miller.
Here.
And me, Commissioner Daniel, I am. Next, a hearty welcome to those of you seated out there. We're always pleased to see participation from the community at large, and actually I think historically we've had at most like one sometimes. So we're delighted to see you all here. I understand that the city actually proposed holding this meeting at the URC, and management declined that. But you know, it would have been for the convenience of both management and residents, particularly those that aren't driving anymore. But I'm just delighted to see both sorts of folks are here today, and happy to have input from everybody. Before moving on with the agenda, I have some announcements I need to make. First, as I said, this is a special meeting. What that means is the order is a little different from normal, so we don't deal with minutes from preceding meetings. We don't have reports from subcommittees or anything like that. We're solely focused on this issue of the proposed URC expansion. Secondly, recall that the voters of Davis approved Measure L, which was approving what is now called the Bretton Woods development. The City Council had a resolution, actually it's 18-094 in 2018, that in that listed baseline project features, and in it was a 3-acre site for a possible expansion of the URC for the benefit of its residents. The next thing is, well, that leads to the fact that we really have two separate and distinct aspects of the proposed expansion that the Commission is supposed to address. First is our standard so-called design review, where we try to represent the senior citizens of Davis, which includes, of course, the senior citizens of the URC, but the senior citizens of Davis broadly, in looking at what features are there, what's the nature of the proposal, and so on. But secondly, we've been asked, or well, required, to try to, and I'll quote this, evaluate the impact of the proposed expansion on the health, safety, and welfare of the current URC residents. That language was in the conditions of approval of the overall Bretton Woods project. So we'll be doing those two things. The last announcement is I was informed by city management that as a resident of the URC, I have a conflict of interest, but that the nature of the conflict is such that it does not preclude my participating fully in the session today and our deliberations. So long as I make clear that I have that conflict of interest as a URC resident. So I'm wearing my URC resident name tag to make clear that I am in fact a URC resident. Next, to move into the agenda, our usual procedure is when we have items on the agenda and there's a presentation on it, it's at that point that we ask for public comment. And it happens that the published agenda says that the next item will be after the approval of the agenda will be public comment. And I want to suggest to my fellow commissioners that instead of having all public comment right then, we hear the presentation on the design and then see if there's public comment, and then our questions and any discussion we have on the design review. And then secondly, the question of impact on the current URC residents, and again invite public comment and our questions, our discussion, and so on. Is that acceptable to?
So moved.
All right. Okay. So that's so then do we have approval of the agenda as revised? Acceptable? Okay?
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Who seconded that?
Oh,
Moved by
well, I
Jim?
was, I
Miller,
was
yes.
saying without objection.
Okay,
But
yeah,
whatever.
I don't know.
All right. All right, so then we move to regular items, and the first on it is the Bretton Woods University Retirement Community, URC Covell Design Review. And the first part is really the design review, not the part about impact on current URC residents. And we are supposed to pay attention to not only this, but pay attention to the guidelines approved by the City Council that serve seniors and persons with disabilities. And Thomas McNairn from the City Planning Department is going to make a presentation about the proposal. Thomas?
Thank you so much. I imagine that everyone can hear me. I don't need to use the microphone. My name is Thomas McNairn, as you said, Associate Planner for the City of Davis. And we are here to present the matter of the URC project as a part of the Bretton Woods design subdivision. We are here to present for input on both the design review, utilizing the guidelines that serve seniors and persons with disabilities as a reference, as well as receive input on the project's impact on health, safety, and welfare on the community. So the design guidelines for the Bretton Woods subdivision laid out a number of requirements that the project was supposed to abide by. And what you have today is about a 3.1 acre site. It is a 4-story, 34 two-bed licensed residential care facility for the elderly units. It also includes a 2-story parking structure with certain amenities like a trellis for shade, a greenhouse, as well as pickleball courts. The project is also going to be heard eventually by the Planning Commission, because the project proposed more than the allowed floor area ratio. So eventually this project will be heard by the Planning Commission, and so comments that will be received today will eventually be transferred to the Planning Commission if it is appropriate. I should note that additionally the preliminary plan development did note that, quote, if the proposed use of this site is related to or an expansion of a neighboring senior use, the Senior Citizen Commission shall evaluate the proposal's impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the current residents of that neighboring facility. So that is the second recommendation for input that we are asking for. And with that, city staff is available for any questions or comments that you might have. And I believe that the URC team is also available for any comments or questions that you commissioners might have.
Thank you, Thomas. It's not unusual at these design reviews that we do here as part of the presentation, after the city presentation from the proposers. Now, my understanding is they do not wish to make a formal presentation, but I thought I should say that ask publicly. Is there a presentation to add on from the proposers? No.
No.
Yeah. But I understand that you'll be available to answer questions. If we throw things at Thomas that he can't answer, that you folks can answer instead. All right. So next we can have questions from the commissioners about the presentation, so to Thomas or to the proposers. I have a few questions, but since I'm chairing the meeting, I think I ought to wait and do that last. So do any other commissioners have any questions they wish to ask?
Just for clarification, you're about to
do a presentation for us, is that correct?
I don't have a presentation with visual aids, it was more of an introduction to get right to the questions and answer, and comments that you all might have.
I see, so this discussion is really gonna be led by our questions.
That was the idea, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Do any commissioners have a question or many questions?
I have many questions. What about you?
Go ahead.
You want to start?
Lonnie, go ahead.
Okay, I saw that, there was a mention in the staff report that there is approximately 70 single-family units, and then the description of the units, didn't specify numbers of people that could be housed. Could you, verify what the number of intended residents or the capacity of residents that could be served by this project?
From my understanding, the 70 single-family units is a part of the Brentonwood subdivision as a whole. Whereas this URC project itself is just the 34 two-bedroom units.
41.
37?
Yeah, all, Jay Blatter, architect, just for the record, yes, our project has, in the primary building, there's 34 RCFE units, and then there's 7 single-story cottages, some of them combined into duplexes, and those are also like two-bedroom units with, some have like a den. Those cottage units have their own garages and apron parking in front, and as Thomas said, the main building has a 2-story parking structure with rooftop amenities, primarily amenities that don't exist on the existing campus, and there's 34 two-bedroom RCF units within that. As far as population, I would imagine those units could be single or double occupancy depending on the nature of the resident. Maximum 2 in some cases. You'll have single people, sometimes in a senior community. Unfortunately, a spouse may pass away or whatever, so does that answer your question?
Yes, so it could be 41,
It could be 41 total residents, I guess, at a max.
That does-
You
that
could have
does answer
82,
it.
yeah. But it's a max of 41. The 70 is not our project.
Jay, if I may, for folks who don't know all the initials, would you say what an RCFE
Sure.
facility is?
And well, the campus is a continuing care retirement community, a CCRC, which is a license that provides, a minimum 2, in this case, 3 levels of care. The CCRC, the RCFB, is a residential care facility for the elderly. It's licensed by Department of Social Services, Community Care Licensing. It's an R2.1 occupancy, so we have to build this to a much higher standard. So it's licensed for ambulatory and non-ambulatory residents. As a result, we're what we call type 1 concrete construction on that building, which has an extra level of safety and welfare for the, of the residents.
Thank you. Go ahead, Leilani.
And I understand, I've seen listed some of the amenities that are in the report. Is there going to, one location, there was a statement that there would be a restaurant included?
No,
Can you please talk about dining provisions?
there's just going to be some casual dining opportunities. Right now, it's being finalized on that podium deck, but it's not a full commercial kitchen. There's no restaurant up there.
Leilani, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you're confusing what is said about the full big Bretton Woods thing and the part that is the URC in one corner. The big Bretton Woods thing said something about a restaurant and so on.
Oh,
The little corner for the URC.
Where they're gonna eat.
yeah, the plan provision for meals for intended residents of this URC expansion. Can you describe what that plan and current plan is?
Do you want to handle that, Levi?
Yeah, Alika, I'm the executive director there. Let me use the mic.
Alika, let me turn that on.
Thank you, Maria. So
I know.
when I present to residents, I have to hold it really close, but I'm afraid it's down below. Alden, am I good? Okay. Thank you. So, first of all, I just want to mention the independent living expansion of the new 41 units that Jay just mentioned is only one piece of University Retirement Community's overall master plan, meaning we're working through some significant changes right now for the existing campus. Those enhancements will go to benefit existing residents. In short, we are creating enlarged common area space for our assisted living residents. So we're enhancing their activity, their dining space, social gathering space. We are also creating some organic gathering space between our existing main entrance and our library area, which is on the main floor. We're opening up that space to encourage social gathering.
Could you just clarify, I'm sorry, are you talking about the main campus?
Correct, I'm talking about the main campus right now. Yeah, so when we're talking about dining as part of the enhancements that are going to be affecting the existing campus, we're also expanding our dining space. So both indoor and outdoor on the 3rd floor. And so we've planned, we've been working with our design team here to look to the future to be able to comfortably accommodate a potential inflow of anywhere between 41 to 82 new residents. I'm estimating it'll be between 60 and 70 based on historical trends of couples to single prospects coming to URC. But in either case, we do fully plan to expand our dining program as a part of this overall master plan.
So you had a follow-up question?
I think it's related. So I think what you said is the plan for this expansion across the street is not for them to eat there, but to come to main campus.
Correct.
By a bridge, or how did they get there?
So what we're talking about now is expanding our transportation program to provide that connectivity, because that's what's really going to make, really going to bring the two campuses together, is having a stronger transportation program. And so the idea is to still have our dining program on the existing campus, primarily because this past year we enhanced the 3rd floor dining space to include one new dining venue, our bistro marketplace concept. And so we'd like that to continue to grow on the existing site and to have residents gather and socialize in one area for simplicity, and also we have the space there.
So then somebody who's in a wheelchair would get on a bus or something, or van, with a wheelchair, get on, get off?
Correct. Our current transportation, our buses now are wheelchair accessible, and we have lifts.
And how many meals a day does the URC current main campus dining facility supply? Is it 3 meals a day that's provided? I see. So,
Yes.
So the current plan that Pacific Retirement Services has is for the additional 60 to 70 residents to be bused across the street 3 meals a day. Is that correct?
The transportation program will accommodate multiple trips during the day around the 3 main meals of the day. Whether or not the resident wants to do that is up to them. We also expect residents to at times walk across the street if they want. But transportation will be available for at least all 3 meals, because we also have activities.
So that's a really busy street. Did you have plans for how you might address the safety if people are walking?
How would we address the safety in terms of
Yeah.
transportation?
No, for walking, ambulatory people. Like how do you make that?
Yeah, well, as part of the Brenton Woods,
Yeah.
as part of the Brenton Woods master plan, they've incorporated. Sorry.
It's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, as part of the master plan that was approved by the city, they put in a significant wide expansion of the right-of-way, and that includes both bike trails, wide sidewalks, a new intersection at Covell, where it would cross over Covell. So I think as part of the overall master plan, they anticipated not just for our residents, but even other residents. So there's quite a significant safe intersection there, and it is a controlled intersection.
Yeah.
Also, I want to add, as Alika said, within our master plan, we have a drop-off area. So it's really right by the lobby of the new building where the shuttle vans can pick up. It's a one-way loop, so it's really safe coming into Riesling. So we really have anticipated both integrating with the overall master plan and working with the residents, coming up with a really, at least we're given the infrastructure, and I'm sure Alika and their staff will implement the actual programming of it. It's something we've talked about quite a bit.
So lighting is part of that too, what you mentioned? And
Yes, there's safe path lighting, there's minimum foot candle levels, both in the California building code and your own city code, so those will be safe lit. And I want to also add that we specifically put a second elevator on the far east end of the building where it's right adjacent to the sidewalk. So residents on new building, within the building will come to the new lobby, and that's where staff and residents have the shortest path of travel back to the existing campus.
Well, I have concerns in regards to people with disabilities, in addition to ambulatory, because in this part of California, it gets extremely hot, and from my own experience, I haven't always been disabled, but I would not want to get on a bus 3 times a day to go eat. I just wouldn't want to do that. And when you think about the elements, I remember going to Phoenix, Arizona with one of my children to look at a university, and as I exited the car, it was so hot there, I nearly collapsed. And it gets just as hot here, because I'm not from this region. And so that's a concern that I have. In addition, you're very close to a freeway, and people do run these lights. And I actually know of a person that was hit on Enterprise and West Capitol because of the cars coming off the freeway, who was in a wheelchair. And I just don't understand why, I feel that that's an inconvenience and possibly an ADA violation. That's just my look on it. Like I said, I think that is a very, I think it's prohibitive. I don't think people would want to do that. As again, I'm speaking from my own experience, but that's a very serious thing to consider. Yes, you have the bus, but everyone's disability is a little different. It doesn't have to be ambulatory. You just may not want to do that 3 times a day. And I don't think, in my own opinion, people should have to do it. I don't think people should have to do it. And then also, I was looking at some of the comments where there are issues at the campus where people are eating now, and they're told that they have to come back because there are no reservations. So now you've compounded that when you build your new facility, and you have issues with the old facility with people trying to eat.
I was going to address just the safety issue, or you want
One thing,
to?
and I'd like to remind everybody that we're focusing on the design now, not the impact on current residents.
Okay.
And also that at this point, we're asking questions of the proposers or of Thomas, and not yet expressing our own views.
Okay.
And if I could just clarify, it's Alika again. It's me again, I'm back. So there is enough dining space for all residents to have a meal 3 times a day. There's enough dining space, enough tables, enough chairs. I think where we've run into issues is when one venue becomes really popular, and that's our marketplace, everyone prefers to go there instead of another venue. And so it's true, not all residents, not all 240, 250 independent living residents could fit in to my marketplace if they wanted to at one time. So meals will be staggered, throughout dinner time, but there is no shortage of tables and chairs.
Yeah, I want to address the accessibility.
Commissioners, other questions?
Yeah, I have a question,
Yeah, I just want to address, your points are really well taken, and we're very sensitive and always want to comply with all the accessibility standards. So I just want to assure you that these units are all designed to comply with all of the accessibility standards of Chapter 11 of the California Building Code. So I'm saying bathrooms, kitchens, hallways, stairways, elevators within the new building, including all the amenities in the upper deck, are totally designed to comply with all accessibility standards in terms of wheelchair, walkers, canes, even cognitive challenges. So I just want to point that out. And as far as, the intersection goes, I can't speak to that. Maybe we could talk to the city, and maybe with not just our development, maybe with the whole new Brentwood Woods development, they could extend the walkway times on the lightings. I've seen that done on master planned communities. But I want to assure you, we do take accessibility really serious. As a senior community, as the architects, I can tell you, we will 100% comply, and this will be a fully accessible new building.
So, a question I have is, due to what I can anticipate is larger, increased traffic back and forth across Covell, which is one of Davis's main transportation arteries. It functions as a fast-moving, large volume conducting street. Has there been any kind of analysis on the traffic impacts, not just of the anticipated Brentwood Woods in a general way, but specifically for this feature, this intended use, which is unplanned to be the movement back and forth throughout the day of, potentially up to 80 residents back and forth multiple times a day. I'd like to know what conversations or planning meetings or analyses have been conducted, perhaps with Davis's transportation department, to understand and what could be anticipated.
Yeah, I think to our knowledge, there has not been a specific analysis looking at how the residents of this site would be moving back and forth or how that might impact it. But generally, as you said, for the Brentwood subdivision project, they look at transportation and the necessary improvements that would be required, and so those are in place. And certainly for intersections, and if there's any safety issues or concerns, those get looked at as they come up. But it's designed to meet all the requirements. It's designed to be safe and to provide the capacity and crossings and safety for pedestrians and bicycles that are needed.
Eric, would you identify yourself for the folks out there?
I'm Eric Lee. I'm the senior planner with the City of Davis.
So, are you saying that this project doesn't require additional analysis of future transportation impacts? They would only be addressed as they come up.
The impacts were evaluated as part of the Brentwood's subdivision project. And there may be operational issues that come up as it occurred at any sort of site in the city over time, because it does change based on other projects too.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'd like to piggyback on what your question, what you just said. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I would just like to piggyback on Commissioner Leilani's comment, her question actually, in that, so there's been but in addition to all of this movement and the planning, we're dealing with a population of seniors. And so, there's a high probability that they're not walking as fast as they used to. I can't say that, they can't do it because they're running marathons and doing everything else. But, overall, when you think about, we're dealing with a population that may be moving at a slower pace. And I think given, as the Commissioner just said, this is a very fast-moving street, thoroughfare. It's one of the major ones in the city, and it's the traffic goes very, very fast. And in addition to that, once again, you have people who may have a rollerblade, a walker, or a wheelchair. And so how fast they're moving as opposed to general population, I think that it should be looked at a little further. That's my comment.
Any additional questions?
Well, I was just wondering, so in the traffic analysis that was done, approximately how many times does the intersection there get switched to allow people to pass through? Is there like an average number, and then how does that compare to the number that's been anticipated with Redwood going in?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
What is the number of times that the red light will go on for east-west travelers on Covell with the new Bretton Woods and the new URC expansion? How many times a day is it going to be anticipated that red light will turn on and stop traffic, east-west traffic?
I have no idea.
Okay. Is that a number that has been analyzed?
I'm not sure if it's something that traffic analyzes. It certainly could be a question for our transportation division, but I would remind you, for this, we're looking at the design review of the site. The project is approved, this use is allowed, and we're just looking at development of this specific site. And so the off-site transportation of that sort of issue is not really under our review currently.
But it would fall under is it true that it would fall under the review of the transportation planning division at the City of David?
If there's an issue, it's something they would monitor or would want to be aware of. They can certainly adjust lights and traffic signals or timing of signals as needed. It's something that they monitor and do regularly.
Okay, because it sounds like the plan for this private company could have a substantial impact on the traffic flow and traffic impacts that the city currently requires to work well. So I think that's great that there is a feedback loop, and I hope that they can be involved sooner rather than later.
If I might insert, I think the impact of the 41 URC units and the people in them is going to be much smaller than the impact of all, 150 units in the affordable housing apartments and all of the rest of Bretton Woods. So it's a significant question, but I think it's much bigger based on the impact of that whole development.
Could I just ask, along these lines, to clarify the ability levels, if you will, of the proposed development, the residents there? So this is an RCFE, that's assisted living, correct?
No.
No.
It's independent.
It's both.
living. It's both.
Could you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah,
please?
so-
And how you divide those up. The reason I'm asking is that the nature of their abilities impacts, of course, what we've been talking about, maybe more or less than what we originally thought when it was originally approved, right? So if there's a great deal more difficulty navigating and moving around and cognitive abilities and so forth, that would have an impact on the whole project, right? Because the nature of those who live there would be different.
But just to clarify, and I'm just probably part of what Lee was going to say, but RCFE includes both independent living and assisted living.
Correct.
So,
But this project includes only independent living.
so the new part is only independent.
The 41 units will be independent living units, correct?
Okay,
And
how
from
do
a
you
licensure
define that?
standpoint,
Yeah, 'cause
it's
the
assisted
licensure-
living and
So
independent living.
that's kind of confusing. So you're basically saying you're gonna screen people? I'm just curious, how do you decide who fits into which category?
So, in senior living,
Right.
part of the application process is a financial and healthcare screening. So yes, to answer your question. So we do look at, in this case, a prospect's health condition. So, and how we determine that is getting information from their physician. So we understand what, if any, support they need with activities of daily living.
Yeah.
And so that helps the conversation move along in terms of what level might be more appropriate for him or her.
So what level do they need? I'm sorry, I'm still getting it's fuzzy in my mind what the distinction is between independent and assisted. So you're saying that it's licensed for assisted?
It's licensed, the licensure
thing.
will cover independent living and assisted living.
Right, so it covers both.
Yes,
And, but you are only gonna let people in who are a certain ability level.
right, so we're looking to expand our independent living community with these 41 units.
That was not at all clear to me. Okay, that helps.
Yeah, good questions.
Okay, so we got other questions, commissioners?
The Bretton Woods development has several community amenities, such as the community park, I'm forgetting the name of it, the community center. And is it anticipated that the residents of the URC expansion will have access to the greater Bretton Woods amenities?
Yes, from my understanding, the whole Bretton Woods project was designed for the integration of everybody to use all of the amenities together. So as Jay was saying, the sidewalks are wider for easier access to the park or any of the other services that may be provided.
And can you explain the fee structure? The Bretton Woods residents will be paying into an HOA, is that correct?
I will note that if you want to hold on to that question for maybe the next topic, that's a little bit beyond the scope of the design review topic.
Certainly.
Other commissioners, questions? I do have some questions. All right, so some of mine maybe are a little, sorry, I'm used to a big lecture hall lecturing in the old days. Can everybody hear me, or do you want me to use the mic?
Jim.
Then I have to try to talk less loudly with the mic.
I'll hold it here.
Yeah, right. Is this okay?
Fine.
All right. First, a technical question. It says that we're going to propose to increase the floor area ratio from 0.5 to 0.66. I mean 665, but who cares? Anyway, where does the 0.5 come from? Is the 0.5 something that is a regulation of the city, and there's a request to exceed that, or what's the 0.5?
So the 0.5, can everyone hear me? I feel like I project. I'm a future lecturer, possibly. The design review guidelines or design guidelines permitted and restricted the 0.5 as for this site. It may be a little irregular compared to other sites. The increase or the proposed increase is, what we would recommend because of, if you caught, there's quite a few easements that set the building back, and the increase in FAR would allow for the use across the entire site.
All right, thank you. And now I've written this down, so I'll say it correctly. The city guidelines ask for information on the wants and needs of our community, that means Davis, for various housing types through an independent market analysis of, quote, true local and current demand, unquote, considering the, quote, senior majority preference to remain in their own homes in Davis, unquote. What data has been provided, if any, on the demand, the wants and needs of senior citizens of Davis?
What I would say is, so I think you're referring to the guidelines for senior
Yes.
projects and people with disabilities. And this is a very general document for really planning in the city for projects. So I think that was used partly for the Brettonwood subdivision as a whole, because that's a senior restricted subdivision, so it has a range of housing options and types and amenities. So in that way, I don't know if there was a market analysis done, but obviously there was demonstrated need and desire by the community, by the decision makers to provide that additional, this additional housing and subdivision for seniors. So I would say it's a part of that. There was nothing that I'm aware of specifically, for URC, although I think we all understand there is a growing senior population and there's a demand or need in that respect. I don't know specifically, I would say not specifically for this facility that I'm aware of, but URC may have information on what they feel their need is.
Is there such analysis for the needs and demands and wishes of Davis citizens, senior citizens, that anybody knows? All right,
I think
well,
I might, if you don't mind, Jim, I'd like to see if we can, I have a narrower version of that same question. Would it feel like an interruption to dig in a little bit more?
go ahead,
So,
here's the mic.
I think you all can hear me really well, right?
No.
No, okay.
I think of myself as a loud person. So, I also looked at that same guideline, Jim, and the way that I interpreted this piece about market analysis is really about wanting to know more about what mechanisms the city of Davis has for keeping abreast of and having data-based understanding of what the care needs are going to be specifically of the city of Davis senior residents. As everybody knows, this URC is part of a continuum of care, and independent living is the first entry level, and that there are increasing levels of care that can be expected to be required for our city's residents. What I'd like to know is what information is the city gathering? What kinds of numbers is the city basing on their understanding of the different types of care that they are attracting, promoting, authorizing to be built? Because if there's insufficient higher levels of care in the community, that could be viewed as an omission of a planning informed process. So what is the city of Davis doing in terms of the market analysis for these higher levels of care? What department might that fall under, and who in city staff is working on that?
Well, I mean, I think my short reply would be that's beyond the review of what we're doing today, just so you know. But I think we can talk to our Social Services and Housing Commission, or not commission, department about that, and maybe city manager's office. I don't know if there's anyone specifically tasked with that, if they're collecting that information, or how they're doing that, but it's something we can convey back as far as your concerns.
Well, relevant to that, I think of maybe a larger issue is the affordability of it, because obviously we would all love to have care of all kinds, right? But we can't afford it. And I'm just curious, if this URC entry into this is way above market from what was originally planned for this location, that would be interesting to know. In terms of cost to residents.
So
I don't know if
to
that's
narrow it to the
It is a
design of the URC building, it's a part of the Brentwood subdivision, and of the subdivision, the affordable units kind of across from, Riesling, were provided as a part of that affordability for the subdivision.
I understand that.
So the affordability was provided based off of the project as a whole, and therefore there weren't necessarily requirements for URC to provide the affordability.
So there would never be a different option within Bretonwoods, is what you're saying?
There is.
No, I don't mean the affordable. I mean for this new parcel.
Well, there's another site indicated for senior affordable apartments adjacent to
Right,
the
I'm not
URC.
talking about those, I'm not even talking about affordable necessarily. I think though, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Wrong.
that
You're
the-
wrong.
What? I'm wrong?
Yeah.
I haven't even asked the question.
Just a second, I'm sorry. I'll sit down.
We can't hear the question.
We can't have discussion and answers from the public at this point, okay? There will be time for public comment. You want to finish something?
Well, yeah, I apologize if I am misunderstanding, but my impression was that the costs for the URC, independent living or otherwise, would be far above market. And I'm not talking about affordables, something entirely different, but something more normative. Isn't there something in the middle that it could have been? I could be wrong. So, and I'm wrong, you said, so go ahead. Oh, never mind.
Not yet.
Let me try to continue, and it'll say something about that.
Okay.
So, the August 23 URC application for approval from the California Department of Social Services contains a May 2023 market analysis based on a primary market area containing about 156,000 seniors, which is a lot bigger than the 8,000 to 10,000 seniors, I think, depending on what you call a senior in Davis. But there is data in there about comparative costs and how it compares to other facilities and to income levels and so on. The one thing that I wanted to stress in my question here is that is for this large area, not for the city of Davis. And I still very much would like to see what is the demand, need, wishes of senior citizens in Davis. And my question was, have we gotten such data? And the answer is no. And one of the odd things in that market analysis is in that document in the document submitted, there is a financial analysis statement that talks about apartments of a certain size. And then there are plans that are the same as the plans we got, that are apartments that are on average 20% bigger, which leads me to believe the pricing is likely to be higher than in that financial analysis. And I wonder if anybody knows which assumption was used in the market analysis. The smaller, less costly, or the larger, higher price in the plan? Does anybody know?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Again, city guidelines about senior housing inquire about supportive staff and services, and listed, quote, meal services, health services, recreational activities, transit services, and other basic life services being provided on site. Now, 41 units is 19.8% increase in, let's call it 20, okay? 20% increase in the number of independent living units currently there. That document to the Department of Social Services estimates, well, the market analysis estimates that 1/4 of those units will be housed by couples. That would estimate 51 new people. Actually, at the URC, the last time I counted a couple of months ago, 1/3 of the independent unit are occupied by couples, which would make it more like 55. But anyway, it's over time, it seems to me, it's likely to be a number like 50 to 55 people. I recognize it could be 82, could be 41, but it's probably more in the 50s. So that kind of 20% increase in independent living residents should increase demand for such services as the things I just rattled off by 20%. And what to me is especially important, eventually increase demand by 20%. I know PRS anyway, and indirectly URC has a consulting actuary. And you could ask an actuary about this. And, I forget for a minute, I'm an actuary. You could ask that if you have a 20% increase in the independent living population, eventually you're highly likely to see a 20% increase in the internal demand for assisted living, skilled nursing, and memory care. So my question is, how will this expected increased demand be met by the current design? And I don't know, I told Thomas before I thought I would ask questions that he couldn't answer. Do the proposers have a response? Want the mic? Thank you.
So your question, Jim, is this current design, is it going to be, or is URC going to be able to meet the future demands, healthcare demands? Is that your question?
Yeah, assisted living, healthcare, memory care,
Okay.
and all the other demand for services.
Okay, I will answer that. Jay, you're off the hot seat. So I believe the answer to that question is yes. So in the
So
beginning,
actually the question was, how will it be met?
how will it be met? So as one specific example, part of the URC Master Campus Plan, which has been worked on for about 3 years now. And so that process came out of a strategic planning process that involves board members, resident leadership, and local management. So when we're talking about the Master Campus Plan, it's a culmination of conversations, input, feedback, planning from all key stakeholders. Out of that came a desire to have more support for memory care residents, so residents that suffer from memory loss. And so as a part of the master plan, we're expanding our memory care support center. And so, we're seeing a future need for that. In terms of assisted living, I mentioned some of the enhancements that we're making right now. Majority of our assisted living residents are still very, very independent, ambulatory. There was an express need for more enhanced social gathering space, dining space, activity space to enhance their quality of life. That's also in the campus master plan. What we're seeing in terms of skilled nursing, in my experience, caring for our residents through the pandemic, the need to want to be in a skilled nursing facility is decreasing. The primary reason for that is during the pandemic, there became a strong push to home health agencies to provide support in home. Skilled nursing facilities at one point were closed to admissions from the public, and that was our situation. And so we weren't taking any outside admissions and were only caring for university returning community residents. During the pandemic, all that pressure was put upon home health care agencies to provide support in home. Well, that never went away. So home health agencies now provide a more robust benefit to individuals wanting to age in their independent living homes. So we're actually seeing right now a decrease in the desire to be admitted into a skilled nursing facility. So that's a trend that's currently happening now. And if you're reading the news, there's skilled nursing facilities that are contemplating closing because their census is not as high as it used to be in the past. And so they're either closing or they're reducing beds. And so we're anticipating, to go back to your question about, are we looking at the future needs of the aging population? The answer is yes. And so in this case, I feel like through our planning, our conversation, not just with management, or like I mentioned, resident leadership, and board members are planning in terms of looking at expanded parking. You all know parking is terrible in the city of Davis. So we're gonna address that. And also with care needs as well, dining needs, activity needs. So,
Yes. So there is a slight trend nationally towards assisted living, for sure. And there's typically an aging in place bias. People like to stay where they are. So there's a national shortage of people to care for people in their homes. How many people get to do that if they want to within your?
so right now, under using independent living as an example and assisted living as an example. So the residential care facility for the elderly license does allow care to come into the home.
Yeah.
You can receive caregiving,
Yes.
and that happens right now
Yes.
in most, if not all, independent living levels. It happens at URC, Atria, you name it. So residents do take advantage of that now. Now, that doesn't mean that residents may not in the future, for example, a resident in independent living may not decide to move to assisted living. That does happen. And typically, what triggers that is cost.
Yeah. But I'm actually trying to get at sort of the skilled nursing side of things in the delivery of those services and how that can happen. When you mentioned that they might be closing, but skilled nursing is sometimes temporary, right? And so it's a flexible sort of thing. I was just curious if residents at the URC have the skilled nursing in home, however they get it, that they need, whether it's in their home or not.
Well, so currently,
Well,
how are
skilled
they?
nursing, okay, so skilled nursing is our highest level of care and it's a different license.
It's-
Skilled nursing is not provided in an
Yeah.
independent living residence or
Right.
assisted living residence. It
Right.
requires a special license.
But they still need it. So what happens when
Correct.
they need it?
So when a resident needs skilled care, for example, a resident falls, they break their hip, they get hip replacement, they need to come for rest and recovery,
Yeah.
therapy, nursing, so they get admitted into our skilled nursing facility, which is on site. We currently have 37 beds in our skilled nursing facility.
Okay, is that big enough to handle the needs? So I mean, obviously, you're gonna have new people if this expansion happens, right? And they're gonna make their way up to continuing care, and they're eventually probably gonna need that. I'm just
Correct.
asking how that happens. Would that
Yes,
be
so,
enough?
so we do expect to have sufficient beds in our skilled nursing facility to accommodate the aging of this influx of 41 to 82 residents.
So you currently have 36 beds, how many additional beds?
37.
37 beds, how many additional beds will you be providing and what's the timeline for that?
So we're not adding any new beds to skilled nursing. We're adding care to our member support wing. So we'll be adding, we're gonna go to private suites is the idea. So residents are gonna have their own space and member support, which is a huge plus. Nobody wants a roommate. So, but in other cases, when we're
Can
talking
you break
skilled
down for us
nursing.
what that means in terms of capacity? Because you referenced now twice the increase in capacity for memory care. But could you please be more specific about what that capacity increase is that you have planned?
Okay, so right now we have 15, do you have the numbers on the?
14?
You mean on the memory care?
Yes,
I believe it was 14 or 15 that we are in the
Okay.
private. And it might be one double, I think there's one or two double suites that might bring the population up to 60.
okay.
I'm so sorry,
So-
14 or 15?
So right
In
now,
memory
we have a
care.
capacity of 14,
Okay.
14 memory support beds. And I believe we're making the leap to 18 or 19 private suites.
So then there will be 18 or 19 total beds?
Yes, correct, or
That can,
units, correct.
Uh-huh. Okay, and so that doesn't sound like, is that a 20% increase?
It's more like 30. But, and did I understand that, I know you're not building new, is that, are
No, we
those
are
coming from the 37 skilled nursing spaces, or coming from roughly 40 assisted living spaces? Where are the new space
Correct.
is coming from?
So the proposal is to decrease our skilled nursing facility by 5 beds.
No, you said skilled nursing.
Correct.
Okay, sorry.
That's the opposite of what
Yeah,
the
So,
property-
correct, our skilled nursing count is gonna go down to accommodate the increase in learning support care.
yeah, I have something I'd like to add too, if I could, on this issue when we're done.
Okay. And so, we don't believe that's gonna prevent us from providing care to our residents in the skilled nursing arena, because we monitor the census, we look at actuals, we don't speculate, we look at actuals. And so we believe that our levels of care are still going to be able to meet the needs of our residents, knowing that public admissions are decreasing, and that we can't speak to from experience, for the reason I just told you.
Yeah, I just want to add a little more perspective. My firm, Nigel and I, we're probably working with maybe 8 or 9 nonprofit communities, just like this community. There's a lot of people with memory impairment who are in skilled nursing settings that are institutional. They're not supportive of enhancing their quality of life. They end up isolated in rooms because nursing homes came under an institutional model. The model, and a lot of this is, and I see all the residents here, a lot of this design was based on 3 years of input. The new memory care setting, while it's still under HCI, which, is the agency that oversees construction nursing homes, it's going to be a much more amenable setting. It's a residential setting, it's a living room setting. So in general, I think I'm hearing a lot of quantitative questions. In terms of the qualitative aspects of this, I think it needs to be recognized that they are greatly improving. You would rather have a person in this new memory care facility where it's a neighborhood setting, it's friendly to families, and this is something we heard from the residents here. They told us that's what we need, and that's what we see. So when you're saying a nursing home, saying you're reducing beds, I can't tell you how many nursing homes I've been in where I think a third or even 50% really don't need to be in a nursing home. The campuses haven't done strategic master plan to accommodate in a better residential setting. I also wanted to address your comments about all the people coming over. We don't see this as come and eat and go back. We see this as a symbiotic relationship between the existing campus and the new campus. I'd like to think someone's coming over for breakfast, they're going to spend the day there, they're going to go to films and activities. Likewise, we try to listen to the residents and put amenities on the new building so they might come over there. They could still have a grab and go lunch there and spend the day. So we don't see this as a back and forth like I'm going to the dining room, like a college campus, now I'm going back to my room. Our design and the input we got from the residents is to encourage socialization, a really great relationship between the two buildings,
Excuse me.
the transportation.
Doesn't seem to me you're answering this question. I apologize, but it's good.
Well, I'm sort of answering the question because there was a question about capacity of nursing homes.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to, and there was
I'm
also
sorry,
a
but
previous
I'm sorry,
question.
Jake, but you are giving us, my colleague just pointed out, a sales pitch
Yeah.
for how this is going to be better. Please. Well, you answered the question that was asked, and it was very helpful.
Well, there was questions about transportation back and
Yes.
forth, and I feel, this committee's expressed not just questions, but sort of some opinions. I'm just trying to give, and I'm really speaking for the residents because they're the ones who helped shape the design. So if you don't want me to answer questions the way I answer them, I'll gladly refrain from doing that.
No, I want you to answer questions. I just.
Well, what's the question?
Well, I thought the question was about the existing campus and capacities.
The underlying question was simply that, given the increase, anticipated increase in social service needs, what is your company's plan for being able to provide for them? And then what is going to be expected for the new residents and in the way of how they will receive those social services if your company does not provide them? Then that falls to the Davis community and will impact the Davis community. So that's the nature of the question, of the capacity-based questions regarding social services.
I think the question, Alika, you answered well. My understanding is you're going from 14 memory care beds to 18 probably.
Yeah, I think it's 18.
Skilled nursing is going from 37 probably down to 32.
Yeah.
You believe that's a reflection of the demand generally for skilled nursing?
Correct.
I don't know about that. I've seen
Yeah.
things that say that. I do notice that when I looked at
Our
the
experience.
URC a month or two ago, I think there were 36 beds occupied at the time, but still, I don't know what the trend might be. But still, my understanding is assisted living is staying as it is, which is about 30.
37.
Assisted living is 37 also? Okay, yeah, I had less than 40 because I couldn't quite figure out a couple of places. And that's not going up.
Not at this time.
Okay, so the question that I had about expecting that there would be eventually 20% increased demand for assisted living, sounds like the URC is not planning on dealing with that by expanding assisted living.
Not at this time.
Not
We
at
don't
that-
have a reason to.
Yeah, I understand, okay, that was my question. I was still looking at the city guidelines about housing for seniors. There's something in there about security. I know that a couple of different places it mentions the gated part. And I'm curious, well, will the property be fenced like the current URC is with an entrance only in through a particular way? How will those vehicle gates, and it shows, but on the plans, it shows pedestrian gates as well, on the interior drive, be opened, or will they be open at certain hours? And I guess, what's the rationale for having a gated community? So I guess the specific question is, how are those things going to be managed, the gates? Anybody know?
So how's the gate going to be operated?
Yeah, I mean, are they electronic and you pull, or are they open all the time except from 10 to 8, or, how?
Most likely, we're going to institute a key card, a fob, much like the garage door openers now for the residents that they use. So it will allow residents to come and go as they wish.
Okay. And the same on the pedestrian walk through the gate that you open with a key fob?
Correct, yes. So any exterior access area will be opened with a fob, a key fob.
Okay, thank you. And I had a question to follow up, following up on what some others have said about transportation. So, as a mathematician, I can't resist this sort of thing. The walking distance from the entrance of the proposed facility to the entrance of the existing facility is about 0.3 of a mile. The average walking distance from a proposed cottage to the existing entrance of the existing facility is about 0.31. We're talking about 50 to 55 residents in the proposed facility will want to travel to and from the existing facility for dining, picking up to-go meals, movie night, game night, resident council meetings, exercise classes, lectures, visiting friends, visiting people in skilled nursing or memory care, delivering and picking up laundry, and lots of things. Likewise, we hope residents of the existing facility might wish to go to and from the proposed facility to access the proposed pickleball courts, the barbecue areas, or to visit friends. Safe, secure, dependable transport is needed in both directions from at least early morning until 8 o'clock or so at night. And I was thinking recently of, I can imagine a couple that are in independent living, and one of them has had a hip replacement and is across the street in skilled nursing and takes a sudden turn for the worse at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the person over across Covell wants to get over to see them, is called and said, you should come see your spouse. Will there be 24-hour a day on demand transport at all hours of the day? So what transport will be provided during what hours, at what frequency, and with what on-demand response times, and will it be able to handle wheelchairs and motorized scooters? Can anybody answer? Aren't you glad you came?
Well, I think after this experience, the commission should have more mics. So, yes. Especially for seniors.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can't have a meeting without a mic. So, we are talking about unscheduled transportation as well, like a town car concept or someone available as needed. We haven't made any hard decisions with that, but we do recognize the need for something like that. Not everything revolves around the schedule, especially when you take care of people. So that is being heavily considered.
But you're not saying that you're going to have a constantly, or 8 in the morning till 8 at night, constantly moving shuttle on a 15-minute schedule or anything like that?
We have not hardlined an actual transportation schedule at this time. But we do understand transportation will need to be offered most of the day and evening. So what that means, I can't commit to right now. But we do recognize that that need is there.
Okay. Thank you. So it sounds like, you know, that, well, this is for later, I guess, but that will require possibly staff and vehicle, some sort of equipment.
Operations.
Yeah. You know, since I live in the URC, the inner drive in that existing facility is regularly awash in parked vehicles at curbside, visitors, staff, contractors, landscapers, repair vans, carpet cleaners, moving vans, some 80 feet long, health aides, and occasionally, unfortunately, EMS vehicles and fire trucks. What provisions are there for parking such vehicles in the proposed expansion? Will they go down that inner drive, and will there be parking along there? I don't see parking places indicated, so. Your turn, Jay.
My turn, and I'll be very specific.
Yeah, thank you.
Answer the question.
Yeah, basically, the cottages all have a private garage and enough space for an apron space in front of the cottages. So the concept is you could park 2 cars there. We specifically designed the parking structure to have 101 spaces, which is more than you would need for just 34 units, and that's to accommodate visitors, staff, and also to relieve some of the burden. It's a benefit for the existing campus, because now some staff can park there. So really, it was designed not just to the minimum, but really to accommodate additional parking, because having visited the campus, I know what Jim's talking about. You know, sometimes finding up, so we think this was one of the things the residents encouraged us in the workshops, to have ample parking, not just the minimum for these, but to have ample parking to really, hopefully it's gonna relieve a lot of the overload you were just talking about, and not have, you know, that issue there. Create more open spaces.
So the contractors and so on will go park in the parking garage? They won't park on that inner drive?
Well, I can't address the current policy for contractors, but certainly, you know, staff, which takes up a bit of parking, could park there. So I don't know, Lee, if you have specific studies or numbers on contractors coming to the site that you're talking about.
I mean, it just depends on what the work is.
Yeah.
So they could be there temporarily and then they'll move. It just depends.
It'll be much improved, because if there's an extra 40 or, you know, 40, 50 cars in that garage, that certainly is gonna help relieve, you know, some of the staffing issues and, you know, visitor issues that are on the campus.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you guys can hear me from this one. I know it's not ideal. I was hoping to minimize you guys having to get up every minute.
Thank
and
you.
I'm so sorry,
No, thank you.
but will this help?
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
use this.
something.
I'll use it.
All right, and I've,
Jim,
Sorry.
what?
Jim, you're talking about large vehicles, right, like trash trucks and
approach?
trucks,
Does that need a-
things like that.
Do that.
I think that's
I don't know if
Sometimes.
it's enough, it may not be
Because
enough.
I don't see where the
It
trash,
may not be
for
enough.
those big garbage
Exactly.
receptacles,
Maybe not.
trucks are coming in and going. I don't see where that is on this site.
I'll just.
Yeah,
I'll
they
just-
service down that inner drive, and then there's recycling areas, and they pick up there, right?
On the inner drive,
Yeah, I think so.
or is it down the ramp towards the entrance of the parking?
I can answer your question. Yeah, right now, the trash is stored in the garage, you know, and we sized it based on the calculations from the city. On trash days, they will wheel that out, and the truck will come in off a spirited one-way loop, and that's how they'll pick up the trash, which is the way the master plan sort of anticipated, one-way flow. Deliveries, now, we have deliveries and trucks will actually be able to come into the garage, and deliveries will be on that separate driveway. So that central road will not be there for, other than just trash pickup days, also emergency vehicles will be able to get through the gates too. And the gates exiting will of course open, you know, they don't need to follow the exit, it's just for entering.
And the commercial size receptacles are gonna be wheeled out and taken.
Yes,
to the middle.
yes,
Okay,
your
thank you.
staff will wheel them out to that little pickup area, which is
I see it
on the
now.
side there.
Thank
Yeah, it's a little hard to see on the plan.
You'll be glad to know I only have two more things I was curious about. One has to do with landscape, change of pace. And I'm curious, who will design and maintain the front yards of the cottages? And the same question for the backyards of the cottages. And will they primarily be turf or something more drought tolerant and climate change adapted? And then roughly the same, well, same question sort of is, and who will control their irrigation? These are things that affect the existing cottages, and so it'll be the same thing there. And as long as I'm mentioning landscape, I wonder, will the backyards of the cottages be fenced or open? Yes, fenced?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what about the landscaping? What's going to be done?
Well, I think he's asking about the maintenance of the landscaping. I mean,
Who's doing it? Who's doing the landscaping?
Right, what's that? Yeah.
You said the design
Design
and
and
maintenance,
maintenance. Yeah.
and water, you know,
Yeah.
this includes watering.
Yeah, Cunningham Engineering that did the engineering for the entire community, did the landscape plan. Planning staff gave us the guidelines, so they updated their plan to totally comply with the design guidelines, which were very specific in terms of trees, ground cover, you know, water usage. I'm not a landscape architect, so I can't specifically, but it totally will comply with the City of Davis standards and the Brenton Woods specific plan, which we did already resubmit to staff to demonstrate some adjustments we made where they pointed out we had to make a few changes.
About maintenance.
What's that?
Maintenance of the.
Well, maintenance, I believe, you can point to that.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
maintenance will be performed most likely by our current landscapers now, our current landscape service.
Front and back?
Well, at least the front, and yeah, most likely the back.
Okay, thank you. Getting the work out, Rick. Yeah, I mean, part of the reason for the question is current cottages, the front yards are maintained and designed in large part by URC. The backyards are left up to the individuals and are also maintained by the individuals, and I was just curious how that was going to be. And the last thing is a noise question, and it's probably really for Jay. Because the proposed pickleball courts, to the best I could tell from the scale plans, appear to be about 40 feet from the exterior wall of the hallways that provide access to the apartments on the 3rd and 4th floor. And I know from reading in the papers, there's been a lot of complaints all around the country about the noise of pickleball courts. So are there windows on that hallway looking out, and will there be adequate soundproofing for the residents on the 3rd and 4th floor, who I guarantee you would complain because, you know, I'm thinking now of the complaints that have been being made over garbage pickup and things by the residents that are up above that area in the current facility. So people complain about noise. So how's that to be handled?
That's a good question, Jim. The whole basis of the design was to sort of wrap the outdoor amenities with circulation. So there's no units, bedrooms, living rooms looking down on that. There are some openings, but we'll make sure it meets the minimum SDC rating. So we specifically oriented the building to really isolate any noise. Also, the pickleball courts are going to be covered because, as someone mentioned, there's hot weather, so the plan shows like a cover. So between the cover and the fact that it's just circulation, no units looking down, and as far as the general neighborhood, it's fronting towards Covell, away from the balance of the Brentwood Woods development. So we did take that into consideration. It'll get nice sunlight, shade, but really acoustically, the single loaded circulation is a real benefit. So we don't anticipate any acoustic impacts of that on either the residents living on the Covell project or any neighboring residents. It really just fronts Covell, and there may be some opening towards the parking lot for the hospital.
Right, so I'm sure the people that get in the third floor apartment will be happy to know that that's the case. So I thank you for bearing with me to go through my list of questions here. My fellow commissioners, are there additional questions before we open for public comment? Hearing
I do have to.
Hearing some.
Please forgive me if I missed this point, but at the planned vehicular drop-off spot on the internal road, is there going to be shade covering and seating for people waiting for ride pickup?
The current design, we don't have almost like a bus, like a shaded drop-off, but we put it right near the lobby. The thinking is people would, be in the lobby, and then when the pickup van or the vehicle picks them up, they would go out, not be sitting outside. I will point out that is north-facing, and that will be in shade almost 12 months of the year. So it's not going to be like the current campus, which also is sort of north-facing or west-facing. So no, there's no structure intended there. We don't see it as like a major public bus stop. Really, the lobby's there, reception's there, and then between the drop-off area and the transportation coordinator, I don't think they have to sit outside in the heat and wait for transportation.
Okay, and lastly,
What are the provisions for the facility in the event of a power outage or other weather or disaster-related event?
That's also a really great question. We currently are planning emergency backup power that'll be on its own, separate panel. That will run one of the elevators. It'll run electrical to the unit, so at least there's one outlet for lighting, and it'll run, the mechanical systems in the common areas. So basically, just even regardless of licensing, we want to make sure that in the event of emergency, there'll be backup power to run the elevators, keep them cool, and have lighting in their units. And certainly, all of the corridor lights and exit lights per code will be on either battery backup or on that backup generator. We're also exploring the possibility of using battery storage in lieu of the generator, but that's in the early stages of development. We're using that on other campuses as just see if there's a more environmentally progressive way to deal with it, but it's definitely going to have the backup power for emergency situations.
I was listening to your discussion about parking, and I just wanted to verify, I think this is what you said, that there'd be parking for staff for on-site supportive care. So not just staff of whatever kind, but for those who are there to help the residents, there would be parking, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's also increasing trends. You mentioned there's lots of in-home aging in place for caregivers who are not informal caregivers, what kind of parking is available for them to come and help?
So it'd fall under visitor parking.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's, it's real close by and it's plenty and it's not expensive.
yeah,
Is it free?
For now.
yeah.
Will it be
Yeah,
free
no, it's-
tomorrow?
We're not gonna charge visitors for parking.
No,
Yeah,
it-
it makes no sense.
It's free.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. Next, we move to public comment. Sometimes when we've had like only one written public comment, we've read it aloud. But there have been, I think, 5 written public comments that we've all received. So in the interest of saving time and getting to the comments of people here, I think we can skip reading through them aloud. But we have all seen the comments. So we'll be open to public comments from folks here. And your time is restricted to 3 minutes. I brought along a little timer, and I'll set it for 2.5 minutes, and then say you've got 30 seconds if someone is still talking. And of course, if we have questions and ask of somebody who made public comment, that's fine, we can go on with that. But otherwise, 3 minutes, and pardon me?
I didn't know you were going to do it that way because there are comments here that weren't voiced at the time, such as skilled nursing facility usually full.
Yeah, those were sent to us, right?
So
And
how do we
so
get them on the record?
they're on the record
No, I
because
meant
we,
how do we get responses? If we don't want responses. Whatever, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I mean, they're on the record by
They're on the
being
record,
submitted
we
to
didn't
us.
ask the question too.
Yeah, and they are gonna be part of the overall package of the minutes, but are you asking just in terms of we don't usually, we have public comment and people don't usually, unless they're like pointed questions, if they're just expressed concerns, like, you know, these are just.
What about they contradict what someone said?
Oh, okay.
Might I suggest that we allow the
Whatever.
public?
Oh,
What's that?
it's okay, it's a
No,
mic,
it isn't.
we're adding a second mic, I'm sorry.
And then anything that is not covered and addressed, then we put them.
All right, so what, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happened here, so what are you wanting to do? Continue, all right. So we'll have public comment at this point, as I said, 3 minutes, and we have another working microphone, and it is comment. I think in general, if if somebody says, well, I have a question for Alika, that's not really public comment to my mind. So it's comment from you on the design and nature of the proposed expansion. So who will be first?
We have number cards, go ahead.
Oh, and we ask that you give your name, but you're not required to do so.
Dave Taramino, the developer of Bretton Woods, still the developer of Bretton Woods, contrary to rumors that I've left town or something. Intimately involved. I specifically negotiated the language you see today before you. And I first want to congratulate the new management for their attitude of involving the residents in the design of the project. Had they done that during the election period, my life would have been much happier and I would have had many more positive votes. So thank you, belated, for doing that. Although this is the first time I've seen the design, we had approved the previous design. This one is much improved from the previous one. So congratulations for doing a good job. And I haven't talked to any of the residents. I hope you got the notice, if there was a notice. When I negotiated that particular language into the ordinance, it was the intent with the staff at that time that this meeting should have been held at URC, so that it would be very convenient for the residents to be able to attend. I'm sorry that didn't happen, but nonetheless, it looks like there was a process to effectively get their input. That was the most important thing from my perspective. So I'm glad to see so many people here. Looks like it's a great project. When we negotiated the option with URC, we recognized that if we didn't offer that land to URC, they would never be able to expand. We felt that URC was offering, at that time, a great service to the community, and that it was to the benefit of the residents to be able to have another piece of property readily available. One of the commissioners asked about the statistics. 76 million of us are in baby boomers. There are nowhere in this country enough facilities to handle the aging population. Bretton Woods was really the first project anywhere that has aging in place with caregiver suites designed into it.
30 seconds, Dave.
So that people can stay in their home, a smaller home, and live comfortably there. So those homes should start, if rain ever lets up, in March. Thank you.
Next.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Elaine Roberts-Musser. I used to be on this commission. The commissioners have asked really important questions, and I hear a certain tone deafness from the responders. There is a real problem with having a part of the community across a very busy highway. And so when they have to have meals or they want to, participate in the community, they have to take a shuttle across, or they have to walk across. That's horribly inconvenient. Secondly, they've asked you a very pointed question, and that is, what happens when there's a shortage of skilled nursing facilities? The reality is, and I'm part of the county's multidisciplinary team, and I can tell you there is a shortage of skilled nursing beds. That's a fact. And when you have a shortage, what happens is the people that need the skilled nursing have to be shipped out of the county. That's what happens. And I know for a fact that URC has had in the past a shortage of skilled nursing facilities. So that's a very real concern, that you're adding a bunch of independent that eventually are going to need skilled nursing, and you may not have the capacity for it. So you need to start answering these questions, because I think they're real concerns.
Thank you, Elaine. Next.
Who is next with their card?
Okay.
I'm Prescott Williams. I'm a resident of URC. I just want to express skepticism of the adequacy of the facility, even with the expansions that have been planned, to absorb these additional residents into our dining facilities, recreational facilities, etc. The dining facility now is crowded. It is inadequately staffed. I don't see any plans to absorb this additional population.
Thank you, Prescott.
Who is next?
My name is John Taylor. I'm a 9-year resident of URC. My wife was a 2.5-year resident of the skilled nursing facility until she passed away. I'm also a resident member of the board of directors. And I'd like to respond to your concerns about factual information. Skilled nursing has 37 licensed beds. In the 9 years that I have lived there, residents have used at a maximum 18 of those licensed beds. The other beds under that license have been used to accommodate public admitted residents on a short-term basis. From a board point of view, that's a good thing because it provides additional revenue, because those beds are priced higher than would be paid for by residents. Secondly, the assisted living facility also has 37 beds. But I believe today, and in the time that I have been here, at least 9 of those assisted living apartments have been occupied by what we call public admins, not by residents. And so when the board looked at what was the future plan to add a development across the street, we could see clearly that we would lose revenue that would be provided as a result of some of those assisted living beds being utilized by outside. We wouldn't have the capacity to take care of them, but we would have the capacity to provide for the additional residents that might need them moving in from across the new development. And the same analysis went through our mind as far as the skilled nursing facility was concerned. And therefore, we felt very comfortable with the idea that additional beds would be provided for for memory support. And in my mind, as a resident, I'm comfortable with the capacity capabilities of the existing plan as far as meeting the needs of whatever Jim's number is, 50, 55, or whatever additional residents as far as higher levels of care are concerned.
All right, who is next? Would like to speak?
My name is Ken Wagstaff, and I'm a resident at URC. I have a procedural question first, and I hope that this can be addressed by staff, maybe not at the moment, but I just have it. I noticed this is listed as an action item. And I don't know what the timetable of the city is with respect to getting comments from this commission, or whether this goes to the planning commission first, then it goes to the council, I don't know. But it seems to me that this commission has raised a lot of very important questions. And in addition, former commissioner we have today, Ellen, has presented additional questions in writing, as I understand it. Your questions were in writing. I don't know that we saw those questions or the answers to them, but it just seems to me procedurally the commission might want to consider how much time they need to get feedback in writing to the questions you've been asking. And I don't know what it means to be an action item, so that's that. Consider that, please. The comment I have now has to do with skilled nursing, and it is a relief to me to hear from a board member at URC, John Taylor just spoke, to see, coupled with what Alika said, Alika Castillo, who presented on behalf of the facility, that we have a cushion there to operate the skilled nursing at its present level of beds. That's important to me. My wife is in skilled nursing, so I have a conflict of interest of my own when I comment on this. I think the transportation question right now is uppermost in my mind. I don't know about the commissioners here, but at least 2 of you have raised, 3 of you, I guess, have raised significant questions. And I think one of the things the city has to consider, and the commission has to consider, is what's happening to Road 31, otherwise known as Cobell Boulevard. And what's happening is people are going around Interstate 80 and are using the county roads to get into Davis, including that road. And so traffic has gone up. As Interstate 80 is improved, hopefully we get a 4th lane, I don't know, but that seems to be a contention right now. But if I-80's backup is dealt with by the state, maybe that'll ease Road 31 a little bit. But right now, that is a traffic concern. I don't know how much it costs to build one of these overpasses or tunnels or whatever.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I hope we do get the shuttle system that has been discussed. It looks to me like management is considering a lot of these questions themselves. So a lot of this will come down to timetables for answering questions and incorporating answers into the design. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Who is next? All right.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to the commissioner for the way I stood up and said you're wrong. Just to clarify, Bretton Woods is a 157th development of housing, which is a requirement for Davis. It is not associated with URC, our land, the operation, and the 3 acres. Here are my concerns. Nature, the proposed impact. You said health and safety, but you missed environmental, because I'm an HS person, and the cars and trucks emissions up and down Colville will be an impact. The intersection with West Colville and Shasta Drive is a 4-way signal intersection with a public stop for buses. The speed limit currently is 45 miles an hour, and when you come off of 113, you try to go as fast as you can through that light. That needs to be done by the Transportation Authority. They will do an operation on that to do and count all the cars and the speeds, and that should be reduced, in my opinion. Let me see, I just have to get, URC residents, in my opinion, some will be walking in and from the new facility night and day and use the shuttle whenever it's appropriate, or whether it's being delayed, or whether it's just missed. They will walk if they're able, and all of those people are independent. Now, my recommendation is that the crosswalks are not sufficient. It has to be designated as a disability crosswalk. And there's some issues that they know how to take care of that. That's what I have to say. Did I make my 3 minutes?
Who's next?
I'm Ron Cole, a resident at URC and past member of the commission. One discussion was about memory support and skilled nursing, and I think there has to be some care about that because, as I understand it, if you are in memory support and have a significant medical issue that needs frequent care, you have to go to skilled nursing. So there's going to be a back and forth, I think, need in that area, which may be a problem. Also, I think my belief is that there are probably 1/3 of the people in assisted living that might very well be served better by being in memory support. Going back to the actual proposal that was passed by the city of Davis, the designation for the parcel we're talking about was for specialized senior care. I think it's a stretch to consider entirely independent living as specialized senior care. I think that's...
Anyone else?
Thanks, Ron.
I'm Pat Dorman, and I've been at URC for 2 years, going on 3. My husband died there. And I just want to say that to tell you, I would like you to put the hat on right now and become a senior. Because I think that it's very easy to tell us what it's going to be like over there as a senior. We look forward to new people coming, and we don't know who they are. But if you are a senior and you're told that it's a beautiful place and you really want to be there, like I was told in my, I would love it. And there are the positives and there are the negatives, depending on which day it is. But to tell somebody that there's no food available, you have to take some walking or skipping or sliding or falling. It's not going to work. So when he says we're going to go spend the day over there and we're going to stay the whole day, I'm not going to do that. I want to go back to my room. So then I have to have transportation about 3 or 4 times a day or more, because I swim. Do you swim? Well, you might not, but you might want to attend one of the many activities that are wonderful, and you really want to be there. Okay, that's it. Take care. Good luck when you come.
Anyone else?
Thanks, Pat.
Okay.
Is that it? No more?
Any additional public comment? Seems we have one more.
Thank you. My name is Marcia Wilson. I'm a resident at URC, and I do want to make one clarification. Very few independent residents actually have 3 meals. We are allotted a certain number of points, and we use those points according to our particular wants and needs. In other words, my husband and I have points, and we generally have dinner at URC. Oftentimes, I'll not even have breakfast, or I'll grab a muffin. I just want to clarify, I doubt that there are going to be a lot of people coming across the street 3 times a day for meals. Now, mind you, there are some in the audience here that do enjoy 3 meals a day. But I would, that would be an interesting statistic to determine whether many of our residents actually do, or many of the residents moving in across the street. We have full kitchens. A lot of us are really good cooks, and we enjoy doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I would just add to that. I would just add to what Marcia said. There are residents that don't use our dining facilities at all. Jim, you're one of them. So, yeah, so you're going to have a wide variety.
Didn't even let me get my timer set.
That's all right. I'll take it fast.
Any other public comment? All are welcome. All right. We can have discussion or any motions from the commissioners. Another possibility would be, before too much more time passes, we move on to the discussion of the impact on the current residents at the URC. What does the commission wish?
Carol Evans suggested we discuss the weekly, make sure that we
All right, so 2 of the commissioners apparently wish to discuss some of the emails that were submitted to us. So, and Lisa wants to ask a question.
Just, I was interested to hear that there's a surplus of skilled nursing beds. That's typical, right? Okay. But I am wondering why they're above whatever market or the pricing. You mentioned, the gentleman in the back mentioned that you make money on it because they're above.
To outsiders.
Yeah, to outsiders. So what does that mean for residents of Davis who could benefit from having this nearby skilled nursing bed? Is it just priced out of what most people could do? How?
No one's priced out.
Oh, here, sorry.
Oh,
awesome.
2. Yay. So we know there's at least 3 microphones. This is number 3.
No, 2, but this is not counted.
Oh, okay. So we have 2 fee structures. So we publish a contracted rate for our CCRC residents and then a public rate. So our CCRC residents get discounted rates. In this case, we're talking about skilled nursing. And so John Taylor is going to pay a lesser daily rate to be in skilled nursing. If his insurance didn't kick in and he was paying privately, than someone who's not a contracted resident of URC. It doesn't mean that resident could not receive care at URC,
but they would be subject to a higher public rate.
But this is Medicare, yes?
No. We're talking about two different things. So you can pay privately, or if you have a qualifying stay, like I said, if you needed hip surgery, your doctor wrote orders for you to recover in skilled nursing, then most times, if your Medicare Part B and A are in effect, then that should carry you for at least the first 20 days, and then on the 21st day, it drops to 80% coverage. So, but it depends on your insurance. But unless you have a qualifying event, then it would be considered a private pay situation.
So, we just wanted to make sure that email public comments that had embedded questions we could get a response. So, there was a message from Ms. Williams stating that the current wait to move from independent living to assisted living is 6 weeks. So, can you please speak to that, given your prior statement that there is not a shortage?
I don't understand the question.
Someone from stating that they are a resident of URC stated that the current wait time to move from independent living to assisted living is 6 weeks. Can you address that?
Can I answer? That comment actually, and that message was about,
They can't hear you.
that message was about impact on current residents.
We're not in that section.
And we're not in that yet,
Oh, okay.
all right? So just trying to keep us moving ahead.
But we just had a public comment that are on these questions. You're wanting to separate them, but that's fine.
I'm sorry, Chair Daniel, I'm sorry, can I? Maybe a little selfishly, I just wanted to ask if you have any sense of how long the meeting will go. I do have other meetings to go to, and for our purposes, we're taking your comments, or the comments you're making, we summarized to the Planning Commission. We'd really like to hear what comments you may have about for the design, as you've been doing. It sounds like there's been some overlap already on the health and safety issue and welfare. If you're planning to go to that and provide more comments on it, we're happy to take it, but I guess in the interest of my other meetings, we do need to leave a little bit. There will be a Planning Commission meeting, as we mentioned, that will be noticed, and so there'll be opportunity if folks want to provide written comments at that point too.
Am I correct that you, for the planning department, would not have information on the impact on current residents?
What we'll do is we would summarize the comments that you make.
No, I'm saying you would not have input to us on impact on the current resident. What I'm trying to figure out is if we can say, so why don't you go ahead and leave?
Well, I think we feel that we need to report back to the Planning Commission on what your concerns may be and what those comments are, because that was part of the charge. We don't necessarily have the answers to it. A lot of the questions are about operations and management, which are not really part of the design review purview. But we're happy to report to the Planning Commission some concerns.
Well, I can assure you that this commission will make some sort of a statement about the impact on their current residents and make sure that that is forwarded to planning and then on to the city council.
Jim, might I suggest that this would be a good time to try to ask staff to answer Ken Wagstaff's question about what the procedural process is ahead, the timeline and procedural process? It could help inform how we proceed with this.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying ask staff, meaning ask Maria's staff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The procedural?
And the process is that this commission could put down some statements if we wish about the design for the record, along with all the other comments that have been made and the answers, and see that that's forwarded to the planning department and the planning commission, and then on to the city council. We could say that we want to address this again after getting, if you wanted written responses from certain specific questions, and address it again at our next meeting, currently scheduled for March 14th. Yeah, I think that's sort of the...
There might be a timeline on staff, because you guys have a certain deadline to be able to go to planning with more information, so.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the date scheduled yet, but it is upcoming. We would ask for the comments to be done today. That's why we're here today. We've tried to answer your questions. I think the applicant's been answering providing as much answers as they can for you today. And again, this is just for your input to the planning commission. If you have written comments you want to provide, you can always provide to them too.
But if the commission wishes to, I'm not saying this should happen, I'm just saying, talking about procedure. If the commission should wish to have another meeting on this at our next meeting, and that delays things to the planning commission, so be it, because the handbook for commissions say that plans for senior housing may be reviewed by the Senior Citizen Commission before action taken by the deciding bodies like the Planning Commission and the City Council. So I'm not saying we should do that. I'm saying that there are options for how the commission proceeds. And my question is, commissioners, how do you want to proceed? And one possibility is to say we would like to hear about the impact on current residents, and not at this point take any action on our views on the, other than everything that's been recorded, our views on the design as presented. It's up to the commissioners.
I make a motion that we would like to have another meeting, that there be comment provided on the conditions of the current residents, and that that there be, I'm still not really, I'm not confident on some of the answers that have been given.
Yes.
I make a motion that there be another meeting to continue this discussion, particularly in regards to the impact on the residents that are there, because we do have emails that we do need to address from residents who may or may not be here. And I also truly have concerns about this bus, this shuttle, and then there's no bench for the shuttle. Everybody's waiting inside. And it sounds good right now, but when you're actually there and someone who uses public transportation, or the shuttle is running late, I have some issues with transportation, particularly in regards to people with mobility issues. But I think we do need to have another meeting.
So I think the motion is that we postpone further consideration on the design until our next meeting. And I think the rest of it was
No, impact.
Keep going, right?
design, oh no, she said design and the impact on current residents, you're right. That we will postpone consideration of that till our next meeting, which is currently scheduled for the 14th of March at 1 o'clock, as I recall. And is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller. Discussion?
May I ask, because I don't know that we would be able to, but I also want to, it's not clear to us what other information you need. We feel we've certainly heard your comments and your concerns, even about the transportation. And we will convey that. It seems to be part of your concern about the project or the health and welfare. It's not clear what question, information you need to provide more comments about the design. In terms of the health and welfare, I'm not sure what you're looking for to understand the issues more.
Yeah, sorry, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion by commissioners? The motion is to postpone further consideration of the design review and the impact on the health, safety, and welfare of current residents until our next meeting, which is currently scheduled for the 14th of March at 1, I believe. Discussion by commissioners. Leilani?
I think that this has been a fairly comprehensive conversation thus far. I think we have had a number of pieces of information before us. There are some missing pieces, which I think we can underscore as concerns, and additional pieces of information we strongly recommend the city gather, such as transportation analysis. I think that because of the importance of this project and the timeline, we should be promoting the timeline moving forward and the city's planning process moving forward and try to conclude our comments today.
Any other discussion by
I do, yeah.
commissioners? Commissioner Miller.
I'm concerned we'll run out of time.
What time do you have to leave?
5 minutes ago. I didn't think this was going to go past 2 hours, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I don't think we can wrap it up in 15 either. But if you would like to, you want to conclude and you don't, so you probably need to talk.
Well, I think that this is a very serious issue brought before us, and it is within our purview to really analyze what is going to happen in terms of housing for seniors. And I think it's an extremely important issue because, as I read through concerns, they're very valid. They're not just because people have sent emails. When I look at them, because there's some very serious concerns I have from the emails that we didn't get to discuss. And some of them do fall under possible ADA violations. And I think that we need as much input as possible because they're building homes for people. And that is something that we have an impact on and that we can give input. And if they need to do a traffic study, then they need to do it. They need to do it. I don't care that this was done whenever it was done, nor do I want to delay it. But you have only one shot to get it right in terms of where people are going to live. And I think we need to do that to the best of our ability to get all of the input to say, I did a good job, and this is the product of me being a good job and a good steward to be on this commission.
Thank you. My only comment on the motion is to recall that city council resolution said that the site for the expansion of the URC should be for the benefit of its residents. And so I think it's difficult for us to take any action without having some discussion about the impact on the residents, which we've not actually had. So I would like us to have that discussion, but I'm aware that at least one of our members, commission members, needed to have left a few minutes ago, and that we would not have a quorum and could not continue. So I I am therefore in favor of the motion. Is there any further discussion among the commissioners on the motion?
Could we have our meeting sooner than March 15th? 14th?
March 14th would be a regular meeting. We could see about scheduling a separate special meeting, and if we were to sooner, yes, right, sooner, that would focus solely on this issue. And well, I'll not make it a part of I'll not make it a movement amendment, but personally, I would like us, the city, to try again to arrange to have this meeting at the URC for the convenience of both residents and management. But so the motion, I think, is to postpone this to the next meeting, and that could be a special meeting that's earlier.
Oh, go ahead.
And I will say, if that does happen, well, I guess there's a couple things if you were to do that. One would be if you would to do it sooner, and to actually set the date today at the meeting, not considered in 1 week or 2 weeks. The other part is you finished your public comments on the item, you finished your presentation, so it's only your discussion, really, that we're waiting for, if you have to complete that.
Yeah.
So the public may be here, but again, it's.
Well, what I was thinking is if the public comment part of the next meeting would be on the impact on the URC. Current resident. Because
well, the intent is.
Public comments already happened.
Yeah, the intent.
No, just a second. I will tell you, I'm chairing this, and the public comment has been on the design, okay? And a separate item is, as we agreed to start for the agenda, is a discussion of the impact on the health, safety, and welfare of current residents. And we've not asked for the public comment on that yet, and that could happen at another meeting.
How about we check with our public to see if there are any additional pieces with regard to this second framing. If we can gather whether there are pressing comments in the room, unspoken, on that impact on current residents topic, that can help us understand what to do next.
All right, I'm certainly happy to ask. Also, I know that some of the comments you received, written comments that you wanted to make sure got mentioned, are on the impact on current residents. Are there people here who would like to have made public comment at a meeting where we were addressing impact on current residents? See, one person out of 2 persons out of 2 or 3 out of maybe a dozen or 15 residents that are here. If we were successful in having this at the University Retirement Community, I don't know if there'd be more.
Yes.
Also, there
Yes.
might, and there also might be enthusiastically positive comments from some residents there. So actually, the question is now, is there any further discussion on the motion about postponing to our next meeting, which could possibly be a special meeting?
I'd like to amend it so that we are meeting sooner. I can be available next Thursday. How about you guys?
Okay, it starts at 11. Or it's going to go past 2 hours.
Well,
Is that enough time, Marie?
I think that one of the issues that stands out to me here is that the city did not allow for a meeting to occur over at the URC.
No, that was not the city.
No. Well, the city. Well, the meeting did not occur.
That's correct, that is correct.
All right. And I think that that could be seen as an ADA violation in terms of a reasonable accommodation. So you have people who came today, which is wonderful. And I think if we outreach and people were there living, if we have a meeting there, that would encompass everybody that we reached out to.
I could, you were asking, I could attend a meeting at 11 on the 22nd, a week from today. Lisa, you said you could?
If it doesn't go past 2 hours.
Leilani?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, so, will you take, Carol, would you take that as a friendly amendment? Just to specify that the meeting would be at 11 on the 22nd?
Yes.
Eric, would that work for,
Well, so what's happening? What's happening?
So
All right, so the motion now, would
it's
you
not
accept the amendment?
guaranteed that everyone
All right,
can
so
make
the
it.
motion,
It's,
the motion on the floor is that we have another meeting, a special meeting on the 22nd at 11 in the morning. We seek to have that, oh, sorry, that's not part of the motion. We have a special meeting on the 22nd at 11 in the morning, and that it would involve, have the discussion among the commission on the design, and then also any presentation, public comment, discussion among the commission on impact on current residents. Is that clear? Have I stated that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, opposed, none, so it's unanimous.
we have to see about staff availability and all of that. I understand you guys are available and we need all of you here for a quorum, but there's a lot of logistics happening as far as.
Yeah.
And where it's gonna be.
Where it's gonna be, so yeah.
Yes, that's,
Is this-
that's the motion of what we would like to have happen.
That is a possibility.
Alika, you have,
Question.
yeah.
So what did we do today? What was the point of today?
What was the point of
Yes,
today?
if you
Well,
are creating a separate meeting, an
right,
additional special meeting,
right.
what was the point of today?
Well, the point of today was to start on this two-pronged process, and we got very far through the first part about looking at the design from the perspective of,
No. We talked about the impact to URC residents. You talked about everything. So you got comments on everything. So I don't understand what you're missing.
Commissioner Miller has just moved that we adjourn.
I'm very sorry. We're no longer full.
Yeah,
We don't have a quorum.
right.
We do not have a quorum.
Yeah, I don't understand what you just did. It was very confusing, very unstructured.
Are we adjourned?
So it doesn't make sense to me.
We are, yeah, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? So it carries 3-1, so we are adjourned.
That made no sense. No sense.
My apologies.